Good morning, PT Breakfast Club. I am Tony Maritato. In front of me is Dave Kittle. Dave, man, holidays are upon us. How's your week going?
It's going great. Thank you so much. Missed you guys last, was it Thursday? I had a new therapist start with us. And the next day, and I said, hey, I have a new therapist, signed the offer letter, just joined up. I got to start onboarding them tomorrow morning, early in the morning. And then, usually that's a combination of either like Zoom calls, paperwork, onboarding stuff, all like logistical stuff. Or it's like, shadowing visits or whatever, which I used to do more of, but we can kind of get into that. And what else is going on in your world?
We're trying to figure out like what our work schedule is going to be for next week. I think I'm going to do Monday, full day, half day on Tuesday, closed Wednesday, Thursday, and then I do a normal half day on Friday. What are you doing for the holiday week when it happens like right in the middle of the week?
Well, we're usually traveling down to Florida, so it's any of my, like right now I'm seeing 2 patients total. So I'm going to try to get them covered with one of my therapists, and if it doesn't happen, they're usually not interested in telehealth. We've been through that. So it's kind of just like I already have a bunch of days off, so it's just like sprinkling more days and time off. So
what do you expect from your therapist? Do you let them fully control their own schedule? Can they do what they want to do, or do you have certain expectations?
They can schedule how they want because as of right now, we're still structured as 1099s so that they can have full autonomy. Like they can, they eat what they kill. In the near future, and even recently, like we were shopping around for health insurance for team members and all that. And then what I found when speaking to a broker, this I think is a whole other topic, but speaking to an insurance broker, and then they require like a certain percentage of participation of your team members. They want to see the past 2 pay stubs of W-2 employees, assuming you have W-2 employees, which I currently don't. So anyway, that's kind of all in the mix, and the therapist gets to control their schedule so they can work Saturdays or Sundays if they want, or they don't have to. They can do evenings, they can be as busy as they want. I have stopped my therapist that we're only seeing like 1 or 2 patients, like very, very PRN. It just takes too much time to just track down 1 or 2 patients per therapist. I just can't. It's like, it's just too much. So they have to kind of commit like 20 hours a week or more, and then we go from there.
Nice. Yeah. Even as a W-2 employee, I tell my clinicians, my PTAs, my admin, I'm like, look, this is the job. Get the job done. You can break up the hours however you want. I don't care if you want a 4-day weekend, you work Tuesday, to Friday or whatever. But on holidays, we kind of get together and we're like, all right, let's do this. So this year, my PTA is going to be taking Thursday off after Christmas, after New Year. I'm just going to work. My family, everybody's in town. We'll have all our family stuff in the evening. I don't have anything really pressing going on in the daytime. But that's one of the advantages, I think, to a smaller, more nimble private practice is that we can afford those kinds of flexibilities. We're maybe working for a hospital, working for a more national chain. This is the hours. This is what we're going to do. And so let's get into kind of what does your new hire onboarding process look like?
Sure. So did you also want to find out about recruiting part or no?
Anything. Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody's dying to recruit.
I was thinking about that when I was brushing my teeth earlier, and we could start at the recruiting really quickly. I know I've covered it other times, and then we can kind of go into the onboarding. I had to go back with this therapist. I had to see, hold on, where did this therapist come from? It's important to know where they come from. And my last 2 hires came from myself manually prospecting on Google. I'm sorry, on LinkedIn. Manually prospecting on LinkedIn. I've said it before on the show. It's a numbers game. You can do it yourself. You can pay a virtual assistant to, use a password manager, go into your LinkedIn account and just manually message therapists in the area. And there was something I saw from, I think it was Layla Hormozy, not Alex Hormozy. And she posted something about job recruiting and hiring. And it was something like either the right people saw your job offer and your job offer just sucks, like it's not appealing, or you have a great offer, but the right people have not seen it yet. I'm not sure if there's a third bucket. Would there be a third bucket of like folks that like otherwise they're like not the right fit, right? So it's like the right fit people, the right potential fit, they saw it and they were like scrolling on, like not interested or didn't catch my eye or whatever. Or the right people that you're actually trying to get in front of saw it, or they either didn't see it or they saw it and it's either a great offer or it's not. Is there any in between there?
No, I think that makes sense, and that's the same for patients, right? Either patients saw your offer, they didn't want to do it, you're not selling them what they want, or they never saw your offer. Both are deficiencies that need to be addressed. And so this was a result of you directly reaching out to the individual.
Yep, I had to go back and look.
And then,
Because I knew we were going to cover this briefly. The message that I sent to this therapist that eventually I just hired, what I said last Thursday, so that was the 12th. It was 12/12, December 12th. The cold message I sent to him was November 5th. So that's like 6 weeks or whatever, or 7 weeks or something like that. No, 6 weeks between cold message and hiring. So took him through the whole process, the phone screen, the 60-minute Zoom interview. We actually did an in-person coffee because he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area," and he said, "I prefer in-person more than a Zoom interview." I'm like, "Wonderful, great. We're like getting out of COVID, baby. We're like totally getting back to normal. I love it." And then we did the in-person evaluation. So he has a friend that has a clinic nearby. We met at the clinic. So this new therapist candidate evaluated me. I said, pretend I'm a 55-year-old lawyer with neck pain, stress, bad posture, whatever, and evaluate and treat me for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll kind of break it down. And it was great. I hardly required any feedback. Communication skills, clinical skills, all that was there. So onboarded them, and then the onboarding now, once it's like signed offer letter, signed employment agreement, tax documents signed. So once those three things are electronically signed, then the onboarding, and since it's a 1099 independent contractor, I pay for coaching calls, Zoom call. I pay them for Zoom calls, coaching calls. Hey, here's some links on how to use our EMR, but we could also jump on a Zoom call. I can screen share where I can walk you through it. Here's someone you saw. Here's how you book them. Here's how you rate the note. Here's how you rate the eval note, the SOAP note, all this A to Z. And I have previous Zoom recordings, cloud Zoom recordings that I can send those links as well to my therapist, like answers a lot of common questions, this and that. So the onboarding helps a couple things. It helps to decrease stress for a new therapist. You're also managing their expectations, and at the same time, they feel supported. And you are also, in my opinion, reinforcing. So the owner is reinforcing the therapist's decision to actually come work for you. So like, after a couple days, this is a lot of work, or some of these clients are annoying or challenging or whatever. So part of the onboarding process is multiple components, including reinforcing the therapist's decision that they actually made a great decision and they should continue to work with us. And the onboarding process in the beginning anywhere is always a lot more work. So in order to have a lot of touch points, a lot of calls, a lot of meetings in person, whatever, take them out for coffee, lunch, whatever, we pay for all that. Whatever is needed to get over the hump of like a lot of this extra work. You're learning a new EMR, maybe you're learning new systems. We use Gusto Payroll, so he's already used that before, so not a big learning curve there, no issues there. But we want things to be done a certain way. We want certain words to be said, like in the evaluation and treatment, and how to confirm visits, and how our therapists kind of lead the dance. So like all of that is part of the coaching, the mentoring, as part of the onboarding. So
yeah, I think that it's interesting to hear you go through all that, because this is the investment that I don't think a lot of us really acknowledge, even on the contractor side, but then on the owner side, it's like you are spending so much time, mental energy, effort. It's a full-time job effectively while you're onboarding somebody. to get them up to speed. And then to accommodate their personality mix. So it's like, all right, does this person, are they a self-starter? Do they want to take it and run with it on their own? Or do they want a little more hand holding? Like, do they want expectations? Do they want me to, and this is where I struggle, do I need to celebrate everything that they do well? Or are they secure enough in their own achievement to say, I don't care what Tony thinks. I'm going to do the best job that I can do. And I'm going to feel good, like internal motivation versus external motivation, all of this kind of stuff. But for us, typically, and I haven't onboarded somebody in a decade or more, similar, so we have the offer. Then we have the employment contract. And our employment contract, which I'm curious about yours, I think it's about 13 to 16 items. We try to hit all of the points that maybe came up that we didn't think about with previous hires. So it's like, all right, if we're doing a continuing education package, and the Con Ed is on a weekday, are they getting paid as an employer plus reimbursement, like random stuff? Do they have to use PTO for certain things? But we try to just use plain language employment agreement, I should say, not even a contract, so that we can kind of identify problems before they even come up. Then we've got the training. I expect at least a week or two that person's really not going to do a whole lot. They're going to hang out. They're going to shadow me. We're going to talk about how we handle different situations. They're going to go through, right, if you need to answer the phone, if you need to, address a issue with a patient, how we handle communication, HIPAA privacy, all that kind of stuff. Man, it's like a month before they're actually even close to generating any kind of real revenue. Now, in your situation, though, what I'm curious about, and only disclose obviously what you're comfortable with, is this a full-time gig? I love that you said you're not taking on anybody for onesies and twosies. Like, it's just not worth the effort. You want 20 hours, I think you said, or more. So is this person still working at a previous employer, or are they full-time with you, or does it really matter?
So he's got like an existing part-time gig where he's going to some outpatient office Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings only, like like 9 to 2:30 or something like that. So it's what's that, like 30 something hours. So he said to me he could do Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays all day. But then he also said, so that he kind of said like he didn't say 8 hours on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. He said like whatever you need. And then he also said, depending on the location of the patients and his schedule and everything, he could also do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, like, afternoon or evenings, depending on like, and he understands, he's speaking my language when he says things like, like for a new evaluation that calls in and like they want to be seen that day or the next day. I'm like, oh my gosh, you understand that you understand our ideal client, the busy New Yorker who, like, of course we want to make sure it's the right fit. But some people are like, like you said, you and I, Tony, we've said it a ton of times here on the show, like a new evaluation contacts us. We want to get them booked. We want to get them completed, get them in as soon as possible, because then it ends their search. Like they literally, most of the time, assuming that the evaluation and treatment is like pretty good, at least, if not great or wonderful or exceptional, which we want to make sure that usually happens because I pick, cherry pick like great therapists that can communicate because they already evaluated me in the interview process. So we want to get those evaluations in right away. So he's got a wide open schedule for the most part, other than Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. So that's easily like 30, 40 hours right there in terms of kind of like an elastic schedule, like definitely Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. And then he can do afternoons the other days if, depending on locations.
Now, I know we generally hate partnerships, formal partnerships, owner partnerships, but one of the main elements of an effective partnership is an effective exit strategy. So while this is still independent contractor and owner, I do think having an exit strategy built in on both sides is super important. We always fail at that. I'm the first one to admit, like, you get in, you're 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 12 weeks in, you're like, oh man, this is not the right fit. This is not going to work. Now you make the decision, like, is this somebody I'm going to try to, mold into the therapist that'll fit the role? Or do I let this person go, find another position and try to fill the spot. Do you have any kind of structured exit strategy? Do you address that at all early in the process to say, hey, we're both professionals, we're both adults. Let's approach this with very logical, rational thinking so that it's nothing personal, but if it doesn't work for you or it doesn't work for me, this is the way we end it.
So if the prospective candidate, the new therapist, if they come through Sturdy McKee's PT match, then absolutely yes, because they can work for us up to 60 days as a trial period. And then on the 60th or 61st or whatever day, I got to go pay Sturdy his recruiting fee, $7,000. And now, by the way, I think it's like 15K, right? Or 16K, because they're growing, they're doing better. It's a great service. And I was one of probably his first 5 or 10 paying customers when he first pitched it. So I have a lower recruiting fee. So I'm glad that I locked that in. So for a new therapist that is coming through that route, now I know what you're going to say. And as I'm saying it, my words are already coming out of my mouth. I'm trying to pull them back in because I should have the same approach to every therapist. I do the same interview process with every therapist, but the ones that come through Sturdy, I've mentioned it also on the show, like we've had some duds or we've had one that, I hired and then like didn't even last a full year or half a year or whatever. So on those candidates, I say, hey, this is a 60-day trial period. The reason why it's a 60-day trial period is because it came through this recruiter. Remember the recruiter, Sturdy McKee, and his team that interviewed you and kind of onboarded you and all that. And I don't know and I would love your feedback, Tony. Like I say to them, like on the 60th day, like I have to pay this recruiting fee. Maybe I shouldn't, but I have done it in the past. And I say like, hey, I just need to make sure financially, like this makes sense. Like we're investing in each other. Like I would be investing my time with onboarding plus this $7,200 in 2 months or whatever, in 60 days. So I need to make sure it's the right fit. Now, when I find these therapists through LinkedIn where I cold message them and I don't have a recruiting fee, I still probably should say the same 60-day trial period. I probably should. Currently, right now, I just don't. So what feedback you got for me? You're looking at me like, yeah, you should be consistent across all of your candidates.
We should. It's not just you; it's all of us. Yeah, I think we need to, and I'm gonna go after this conversation to ChatGPT and start to work on this language, work on this kind of communication, because I don't know how to best do it. But I'm totally on board. I agree with you. I'm like, look, this is the money I'm invested. It's an objective amount. I can show you, that I'm putting money into your success, Mr. Candidate, Mrs. Candidate. It's the same. I would put, that same into somebody who didn't come through a recruiting agency. I was listening to an interview on my way in today, and they were talking about recruiting agencies. And I was thinking like, this is kind of an interesting, a third party that comes in because the person that was being interviewed said they realized they weren't a good fit for the job. So they went to the recruiter, told the recruiter, I don't want to go back to that place. There's a level of, I guess, autonomy in that. And so it's easier to break ties when you have a third party in the middle. You're less concerned about people's emotions and the way they react to it. But at the same time, again, let's be adults. Let's be professionals. If I have a problem with you, let me tell you what my problem is. And let me be prepared for your reaction, no matter how crazy it might be. And, God, at this point, like I'm almost 50. I can deal with some pretty crazy reactions. So I think what you're doing is great. I think including that cost of recruitment, whether it be cost of marketing, cost of a recruiter, cost of training, all of that, it should be laid out. It should be mutually agreed upon to say, hey, I'm going to put this investment out there with expectations that we're going to turn a profit in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever your time frame needs to be. Last question about onboarding, and then we'll go to the next topic. Do you have specific metrics and timeframes to say, okay, by 6 weeks, I expect this. By 12 weeks, I expect this, and objective measures behind the expectation? real quick, for me, it's easy because we're in a clinic. I'm supplying the patients, I'm supplying the caseload. I've got expectations for a number of units billed, notes completed, all of that kind of stuff. Do you have something like that in this system, knowing it's an independent contractor and not a W-2?
Yeah, so obviously it helps to upfront, like we just discussed, like making sure I know. I ask them like, what's your total time that you are available? I need to know that. We're going to put it in the EMR. I need those slots, the blocks like open, and then that way, if we convert people, like we can fit them in. We can look at the calendar while on the phone with the prospective patient. Say yes, we most likely have that slot.
Are they using your EMR?
They are, of course, yeah.
I
This
wonder.
this is a new thing this year.
Well, I just wonder, hopefully nobody's listening, but I wonder how that rolls in with independent contractor status. I don't know. We know New York, California, those states.
Come arrest me. I don't care.
I
I'm
just
not.
wonder. I've got to think there's a way to work that into the agreement in the language to keep you in the clear. But I'm just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been a ton of forces on both sides and changes, and I think most of the changes come from California with like Uber and Lyft and how those drivers are classified as 1099 independent contractors versus employees. And but I haven't seen or heard any major changes recently in the past couple of years. I understand like there's certain things like I can and cannot do. That's why I said at the top of the show, and I've said it before, they can make their own schedule, right? So like, of course, it depends on the patient's availability as well, but they can make their own schedule. I'm not going to say you need to go see, Mr. Johnson at 8 a.m. Like you can fit them in there. Like I'll try to help kind of piecemeal the evaluations and kind of say, okay, here's their calendar. It looks like they have some availability, but in our process, I still have my evaluating therapist. Once the patient converts and we're taking their insurance or the out of pocket, we know, they understand the cost and sign the paperwork, all that. Then I have my prospective or my evaluating therapist call that patient to touch base. Again, it's just more of our touch points of our process. And on that call, that patient gets to hear the tonality and all that, the professionalism of my therapist, who's actually going to be coming without seeing them, coming to their home into an intimate space usually, right? So on that call, the therapist then says, hey, Mr. Johnson, like, does that 8 a.m. work for you? Or, do you prefer 9 or 10 a.m.? Or here's the open slots. I have 9 a.m. or I have 3:30, like which one works better for you, whatever. So there's certain things I know I can and cannot do. I can't make them have a fixed schedule or a schedule that I build and things like that. So I understand some of those dynamics, and we'll see. Maybe that'll change in the future because I have been shopping around for health insurance. So maybe I'll convert everyone to W-2 in the next year. We'll see.
Well, I mean, Luna it's all 1099 contractors. They operate in New York. The contractor uses the Luna documentation system, so there's obviously ways that this works.
Yep.
You mentioned something that I'm doing differently now. I've always wanted to. I've never done it where we send out a little welcome video. And so I ordered plumbing services a couple of months ago. I got a text saying the plumber's on the way. Here's a picture of the plumber, showed me his face, showed me his little bio and stuff, and told me he's within 30 minutes away. My RTM platform now has the ability to, I sent them a couple welcome videos, and now that rolls into the RTM text messaging feature. And so I'll be curious. I tagged Jerry Durham on the post because I was like, a la Jerry, this is all about pre-framing, setting the patient up for success, letting them know who you are, what you sound like. Do you have an accent? Are you a man or a woman? Like, patients for decades have come into physical therapy having no idea who the weirdo is going to be that they're going to be working with. Are they going to touch me, not touch me? Are they going to make me take my clothes off? Like zero expectation of what to expect. So I have you ever considered something like that, sending text messages ahead where you're like, this is the therapist, this is their bio, this is what's going to happen? Do you do anything like that?
So thought about it. We're going to definitely add some of this in the near future, including some of this Alex Hormozy stuff of like when you get like a patient that agrees to, let's just say, cash out of pocket, or they're going to buy a package, right? So you're talking on the front end. Yes, we're going to figure out either through, because I have a Go High Level CRM account built out. So if there's a way I can start triggering messages or things to be sending out. And I also was just speaking to Chad Kuntz recently. He builds out those for practice owners. And he said there's some HIPAA compliant way to connect to certain EMRs where the CRM can send out emails or texts based off of like which visit the person has completed. That's great. That's complex. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you could probably have your admin or billing person or therapist, whatever, just go in and like manually trigger it. Like, I want this email or text to go out to Tony on his evaluation, or leading up to like 2 days before the evaluation. Assuming you're calling in today and you're looking for today's Tuesday and you're getting evaluated on Thursday or Friday, then we can send some of those pre-framing messages. I think it's a great idea. I know you mentioned it before, but we definitely need to do it. We need to send, at the very least, a headshot. But I like the idea of a clickable link over text and email to a video of the therapist that's going to be coming to their home or apartment, so that they can see them, they can hear them, but just seeing them and hearing that, it's like you've halfway met them, seeing a video like that. It's like when people say, Tony, I feel like I've met you. I feel like I've known you for years or whatever. And me and other people haven't even met you in person. Right. So video does a lot of that to bridge that gap from like complete stranger to, oh, like I'm going to lower my guard. Like I'm a little more comfortable. And now I'm less likely to cancel or have any issues last second. I'm more likely to have buy-in at the evaluation as the patient. And then there's other things like the Alex Hormozy stuff, as I was alluding to, which is like once they do the evaluation, or maybe they buy a package or whatever, now I'm looking at some of those like hydro flask water bottles that like are, heavy and like people don't throw them out, and getting my logo on there and maybe sending that to new patients on the second or third visit and having that all dialed in a process so that it's like a little bit of a gift. And that kind of segues into handwritten notes, because I think in the first couple visits, I want to get into in the new year, sending out handwritten notes, just like, hey, like, thinking of you, you're onboarding now, or you're just getting started with your physical therapy journey, whatever, your health and wellness process with us, whatever. Just wanted to say, we value you. We're here for you. If you have any questions, any issues, any challenges, whatever. And those types of things can prevent the bad Google review that you had like months ago, where someone came in, you thought it was like a normal visit, and then she leaves, and then she left like a 1-star Google review. It's like this type of stuff maybe can prevent that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love handwritten notes. We used to do it a couple different ways. You and I are going to talk about reactivation campaigns too, but what we used to do was we would have a bunch of blank thank you cards, and we would get our patient to handwrite a thank you card to the referring physician while they were in therapy. And then we would package it and ship it to the referring physician. So it's written by the patient in the patient's handwriting. We would do the stamping and mailing, but it would come from that patient. Another interesting concept that we used to do is we would have a patient handwrite on a piece of paper kind of why they're coming to therapy and what their major challenges are. We would do that in the beginning. That would be kind of part of their buy-in, part of them, committing this to the written language. And then we would do, closer to discharge, we would do a patient progress, and we would have them handwrite again. What are their achievements? We know there's still problems. What are some of the achievements that you've done? Now we've got this handwritten by the patient before and after. And then when we would do a reactivation, like a birthday card, or a, hey, it's been 90 days since we discharged you, or, can you believe it's been a year since you were here at physical therapy? We could include copies of the before and after written by the patient in the reactivation card, going to the patient saying, hey, check this out. I found this. This is, incredible to see how much you progressed when you were coming here. To me, it kind of reminded me, since I'm a dad, it reminded me of like, you go through old videos, you see your kids growing up, you see like the handprint, the footprint, the stuff from when you were at the hospital. It brings back so many good memories. I wanted to capture that in a way that I could send to the patient to say, hey, it's not about you being here. It's about remember how good you felt. Remember the achievement. Remember you did something great for yourself and your family by coming to physical therapy. Let's experience that again. And that's when we would get them back in to do an update or anything like that. What are you doing with these cards?
So real quick, Dr. Scott Embry, he was talking about the intro videos. He's commenting here live. He said intro videos sound like a great idea. Are they personalized for each patient though? No. So usually what they are is it's kind of generalized. Now, depending on your ideal client and your type of clinic, Tony kind of sees a lot of musculoskeletal issues. So you, Tony, could have a video just for total knee replacements if you wanted, and you send that to patients. So it would be you or one of your therapists that's like, hey there, it's Tony Maritato, physical therapist here at Total Therapy Solutions. Saw that you just booked your evaluation in the near future. We look forward to working with you. I look forward to meeting you personally because you're on my calendar. I'm going to be the one that's actually evaluating you and treating you. Here's our clinic space. Let me walk you around real quick. And, hopefully, like, we have parking right outside, and hopefully you can find us easy. If not, call this number at blah, 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 your phone number if you have any issues. Otherwise, I really look forward to evaluating you and look forward to seeing you and helping you with your aches, pains, health, wellness journey, whatever you want to insert there. What are your thoughts on just kind of like a generalized video, or maybe you segment it? Maybe you have rotator cuff, or you got total knee replacement, or you got falls, balance, gait training, longevity, whatever for your reactive treadmill. Like, what do you think? If you're going to do this, Tony, you just start, in my opinion, probably start with a generalized video, then you can break it down from there. What do you think?
Yeah, you nailed it. You got three options. You go with the most generic video. And that's what I did for my RTM platform. I was just like, hey, my name's Tony Maritato. I'm a physical therapist here at Total Therapy Solutions. This is what you can expect. This is what we do. This is what you can wear on the first day. If you need directions, follow this link. Super simple, goes out to anybody. But then level 2 would be condition specific. So the RTM that I'm using, they have different care pathways. So if I have a total knee replacement referral versus a rotator cuff referral versus a non-specific low back pain referral, you create 3 videos based on the care path. But then you could even take it a third step. This is the game in the game. And you're like, look, I'm slow. I've got extra time. I'm going to send a personalized message. The first personalized message I think I ever got was either Will Boyd or Alex Angar. I'm not sure. I think it was Alex. I did something. I connected with them. This would have been like a decade ago. And then I got a Facebook Messenger that had Alex saying, hey, Tony, it's so great to connect with you. Thanks so much. And it was totally personalized. It takes like 30 seconds, 50 seconds to do it. And so depending on your availability, like, you always have the baseline generic one ready to go. But if you can do the personalized one, absolutely, you stop the generic one, you send the personalized one. It is so impactful. The fact that I still remember that message from over 10 years ago shows you how impactful it is.
There you go. Go ahead, Dina Strauss.
Yeah, Dana said such a great idea about proactive outreach, reactivation, patient engagement skills are superpowers. I agree. And ACOs and other risk-bearing entities could use these tactics to grow and strengthen their beneficiary attribution, build trust with their patients. These are key to
they're not going to do handwritten notes like I do, though. That's different.
Key to ACO success. So many lessons, tips, translate value-based care, which is huge. Communication skills that they should come easily to therapists, Dana. I'm not seeing them come as easily. I hate to beat up on younger generation therapists, and maybe it's just because we're communicating differently, and this goes back to, if you're a young therapist who communicates better through digital messaging, through text, through email, through video. I know therapists who can talk to a video camera more easily than they can talk to a human. And leverage that as your strength. Yeah, play to that strength. But I agree. I always say, like, The therapist superpower should be communication and empathy. Like, we should be the leaders in communication and empathy, and that will help our patients more than any therapeutic intervention, any specialization, anything else that we could deliver.
All right, handwritten notes, Tony. Here we go. I'm almost done. I think I ordered 200. All right. This is why health systems won't do this, because this takes time and effort. Now you could outsource this. I'm just writing, dear Tony, or dear Mr. Johnson, and then signing my name at the bottom. Here's an example. You guys can take this. You can use it. So we got a couple personal, family pictures. Happy holidays from, our names. And on the back is just a message that is from Shutterfly, right? So you just like write it. Then I sign the person's name on the top, dear so-and-so, and then sign my name at the bottom. Really, really easy. And if the person is like, hasn't been in our clinic in a while, or I'm afraid that they're going to like, maybe, I don't know, like take it the wrong way. Sometimes I won't even sign it. Usually I'm slipping my business card in there, which is, I think, could also rub people the wrong way, because I want to build goodwill. And Ron Miller in Orlando, Florida has talked about this, where he'll send these out. This is where I got this idea. I got this from him from years ago. He'll send these out and it won't even say pursue physical therapy on it at all. It will not have their business card in it at all, which is great. That's kind of like the pure goodwill. And I pretty much want to have goodwill. I want to build goodwill and reactivations, but I also want to make it easy for people. So a lot of times I'll slip in 1 or 2 business cards. I've also tested, hasn't worked yet, but I've tested where, did I read this? Let me read it. We wanted to take a moment to express our gratitude for your continued loyalty. Your business means the world to us, and we're honored to have you as a valued client. Thank you for choosing to work with us on your health and wellness journey. Now, obviously, it's for current or previous patients. And I won't go through my entire list. Like I said, 200 is enough. That's enough. But the fascinating thing is, now again, I'm going to sign it, send it. The fascinating thing, here's an example. Any questions so far? Because I have an example of how this stack. How much, Tony? How much do you think? So from this, how much? And I think it's kind of impossible to know the marketing attribution. Like, how does this turn into X dollars? I think it's tough to know for sure. But like, what do you think, based on what you know about me and my practice? What do you think that turns into?
I want to say $12,000.
Okay. Here's an example of, this is why this works so well. Okay, this is going to blow you away. I saw a physician like 6 years ago in his home and apartment in the city. Knee issue. I'm not going to say, obviously I can't say his name, but plan of care 6 something years ago. Didn't hear from him. We were sending, and I've been doing this now, I don't know how many years, maybe 4 or 5 or something years. Been sending these holiday cards only, like that's, and not even activation, reactivation emails, anything like that. Just pure, like, this takes time, it takes money. Yes, stamps. I spent $160 so far on stamps. I spent, I don't know, a couple hundred on the Shutterfly things. Then my time, or I eventually can offload it, but it's my time to do this. This one patient years ago, then reactivated. He wanted evenings. I was not available. One of my therapists started to see him. Then 2 or 3 years ago, he refers us to the father-in-law. He's got a plan of care outside of New York in nearby. Then they have a summer house in Greenwich, Connecticut. This past summer, the wife was treated. They have 2 sons. One of the sons was treated up there. They come back to New York City. The other son has an orthopedic issue. So now we've treated 5 family members of this. It's like 4 direct family members, including like the husband, wife, 2 sons, and the 5th family member was the father-in-law, whatever. So 5 people. And I truly believe that, because there was no other emails, text to this patient, nothing from years ago. And I truly believe it's from staying on top of mind around the holidays with these holiday cards. And that has turned into Just from those, just from that family, Tony, that's at least 50K. That's one example.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, and now of course it's 50K spread over
Sure.
3 years or whatever, 4 years or something. But that's the power, is that sending this as goodwill. It just, around the holidays, you're just staying on the radar. And now I'm thinking, as I'm saying this out loud, we need to be sending out some other nuts, because right now people get a ton of, people hang up their holiday cards, right? Everyone gets holiday cards. Now I'm thinking, man, we need to be sending out like Christmas in July, something silly, like some other stupid, like whenever we're slower, right? So that would, for most clinics, it's like July and August, people travel. So maybe it's like a stupid Christmas in July card from Concierge Pain Relief, another business card slipped in there, a little bit of goodwill, but it's coming at a time where there's less volume in their mailbox of holiday cards. What do you think?
That's exactly what I was waiting to say. We do the same Christmas cards. We just send the same family Christmas card that we send to neighbors and connections we send to previous patients. There's no sales associated with that kind of card, but you said exactly what I was going to say. Everybody's inundated with cards. You go to a Christmas in July, you do a quarterly thing, you find some reason to send those communications out. And we've shared this before, but for new viewers, listeners, you curate the list. You don't send it to everybody. You're sending out 200 or so. I don't want to send 1,000 cards, 10,000 cards. I want to send cards to a very targeted community, the group of 5% who are passionate, love what I do, love coming to therapy. They fell off, they got busy with other things. They kind of forgot about it. They lost touch. And now we want that open invitation, because I will tell you guys, I talk to a lot of past patients, and a lot of them feel guilty if they need therapy again. They feel like a failure. They feel like they're letting you down. They don't want to come back to you, not because they don't like you, but because they literally feel guilty. They didn't keep up with their home exercises. They didn't do what you told them to do. Now they're kind of coming back with their tail between their legs. And we that's the last thing in the world that we want. This goes back to, I never finished the thought, your conversation with Jeff Moore, where we were like, look, in the early days, we were a better therapist if we got people done in 4 visits. Now we realize this is a lifetime commitment. This is something that I want to be with you the rest of your life. And so we want to have different conversations so that patients understand, I don't expect you to never get hurt again. I expect you to come back. I want you to come back. It's an open invitation. This should be someplace, the first place you think of when you're like, I just don't feel as great as I should. I'm going to go back and see Dave Kittle, Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
One thing off of that, at the very least, whether manually or setting up emails or texts or whatever to your past patient list, yes, you can flag them. You can target them based off of like, this is my ideal client, or this person might not take it well, and like, let's take them off the list, or let's label them as like, don't send them an email or text or whatever. But we send these messages all the time, text or email. I just did. It's hilarious. I can't show it because my phone, but I sent a text message at 8:18 a.m. and it says, morning, patient's name. Do you need any hands-on physical therapy at the moment, or you're all good at this time? So it gives them like, hey, if you're all good, great. Like people just pop into my head, and then I'm not going to go treat them. That's the beautiful thing, is like, my therapist is going to go treat them, but I'm the conduit to just touch base with these people. If they're good, if they don't need it, great. Okay, no problem. Like, no issue at all. But I agree. We need to, as a profession, be reminding folks like, hey, we're still here. And it's totally okay if you have that old issue that's kind of flared back up, or if you have a new issue. So many times I'll message past patients or email, or I'll set up automated emails, and someone will reply and say like, oh, my low back feels great, but actually, now that you mention it, like today or yesterday, I woke up and I slept wrong, or I fell asleep on the couch in a weird position. Now I have like a stiff neck or issue or whatever. Now they're mentioning that only because we proactively reached out. But if we had not emailed or text, some people will just wait 3 months, 6 months, whatever. They wait for it to get worse, and then it takes longer for them to get back to normal, right? So it's crazy how hardly anyone does this.
So this is a great segue into the last segment for today's episode, where I want to talk about plan of care purchase agreements. It's I would imagine this is a big thing in your world, but I don't think you do it. But I'm curious to find out. I was talking, as I'm transitioning, I'm turning the Titanic to a different direction as I'm putting out loads and loads of content around the equipment that we have, the devices we're using, different things that we're working on. Obviously my workflow changes. And so one of the things that I said was, why don't I have a plan of care purchase agreement? I've always wanted to do this. I never put the time into creating it because we were still primarily an insurance-based clinic. Patients are coming, insurance is paying. Nobody's really doing anything intentional in that situation. So I'm in the process of buying a new car. My 16-year-old, we're sick of sharing the car and we need to get a new car. I'm like, all right, the guy gives me the printout. I see everything, all the features, all the, things that are included. I've got the price. And I'm like, why don't I have something like this in my physical therapy clinic? So I go to ChatGPT and we start working on it. And the prompting that it takes is kind of interesting because it helps me improve the mental process of what do I really want to convey. And I told GPT, I was like, hey, I don't just want a list of services and prices. I want a description, a narrative. I want to talk about the actual benefits that the patient's receiving. I said, give me a list of questions that will help you understand the unmentioned or non-verbalized services that are included that I'm not getting credit for. For example,
Ooh, nice.
you kind of keeping tabs on people months after discharge. That is an intangible benefit. That is valuable. I would have to pay an employee to go through old accounts to look at who we haven't talked to. There's value in that. In easy stuff like texting, right? 24-hour access for text and email, limited access for voice calls. I can't go to a hospital-based therapist and get to be able to text them. But if you come to me, you can. Access to specialists. Again, I had a young high school football player. He needed to see a non-surgical orthopedic. I got him in within 24 hours. You can't do that if you just call that orthopedics office. It's going to be a 3 to 6 week wait list. But if you're my client, I'm going to get you in tomorrow, if not today. I'm going to talk to your doctor. I had another patient who's going for some imaging. I text the surgeon. We talked on the phone about the patient while the patient was in my clinic. These are all services that most of the people here are willing to do, that they're not charging extra for, but they're also not capturing the value of. That the patient doesn't even realize that we are capable or willing to do these things. So in the purchase agreement, I'm happy to share whatever ChatGPT comes up with. It's not a legal document. Go hire an attorney to review it for yourself. But I'm happy to explore this conversation of what are the things that we already do, that we're already paying for, but we're not showing the patient, hey, this is value that you're getting for what you're paying. Can you think of, off the top of your head, anything that you do above and beyond what a typical therapist would do that maybe you're not even telling your patients that you do it? They don't even know you do it, but it's worked into the price that you're charging.
I think one is that we can do the visit. We can do any visit or the visit wherever they want. I forgot to mention the first onboarding visit last week that my new therapist, to tie this all back together, the first visit that my new therapist came on with me because I had this previous patient. He's been with us. He's spent a ton of money. He's been with us like this whole year. My therapist who just went to India for 6 weeks, Porus, he was treating this patient. Now this patient needs coverage for when Porus is away. So now my new therapist, Dr. Mo, is going to see this client. Now this client I worked with earlier in the spring and the summer, and then transitioned to Porus, my other full-time therapist that started in August or September. So my new therapist, Dr. Mo, I said, hey, we're going to do this visit together. I'm going to pay you. You're going to get the full visit rate. You're going to come and shadow, and we're going to kind of co-treat this client together. But here's the thing. The visit was not at the client's home. The client is going to be going to Florida in a week for 2 weeks. in about a week, he's going to be going for the holidays and he wants to play golf in Florida. Well, it's 30. Actually, today it's 50 degrees in New York. Crazy. But it's been 30, 40. It's been not golf weather here in New York City. So the visit was at the local golf simulator at some business nearby in Manhattan. So the therapist gets to come with me. And that's something that I'm not conveying probably well enough with my current clients to kind of tie this all back together, which is I'm not probably communicating it well enough that the visit can happen in your home apartment, in your building's gym. It can happen in Central Park, which is that client has also done. It can happen at the local golf simulator, the local yoga studio, whatever, Pilates, whatever. And it can be at any of those places. That's the thing that we're probably not discussing well enough, that it can be an on-demand service. It can happen wherever you want it to happen. I don't know. Am I articulating it well enough, Tony? Maybe I need to ChatGPT it.
No, like that's a great thing to put out there. Best way to put it out there, record video. Hey, this is Dave Kittle. I am at Top Golf because I am working with a client today who's heading to Florida next week, and we're going to hit some balls on site. This is one of the benefits of working with concierge pain relief, is because we can come to you. You're not stuck in a clinic. But a little video clip, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, like great way to communicate. I saw you shared it. Jordan's here. Aisha's here. Steven. Thank you guys all for showing up. The question is, though, do you have any kind of plan of care purchase agreement? The one that I want to create, it's going to have total pricing with all of the features and benefits. These are two different things listed in there, but it's also going to have insurance reimbursement. So a plan of care that in reality might be a $10,000 plan of care after reductions, after discounts, after insurance coverage as an estimate, what's left for out-of-pocket expense might come down to $3,000. Now, if I'm going to purchase something that has a ticket price of $10,000 and I'm getting it for $3,000,
sounds like a deal.
A different situation than if I'm going to buy something that I'm expecting a $35 copay and somebody tells me it's a $3,000 item.
Yeah, because you're price anchoring. You're price anchoring at 10 grand. I get it.
Even on the car example, we're looking at the Subaru. We were looking at the Outback, and then the Forester, and then the one below that. And the tag on the car says 40,000, but then you've got sticker price and all this other stuff, and it comes down to 32,000. But then of course we're like, well, we're going to add in this, and this, so it goes back up to 37. But still, there's value in that. And I think a discerning, educated consumer, somebody who's more proactive, which is typically what we want anyway. We don't want a bag of flesh laying on a treatment table telling us to rub them. We want somebody who's invested in their outcome. That person is going to want to see, what am I paying? What am I getting? What are the benefits here? What are the features here? And what's the time frame? I also like time frame specific, not session. I don't want to sell 12 sessions. I want to sell 6 weeks. And I want to deliver the entire experience for a 6-week session or 6-week plan of care. What do you think?
There's pros and cons of these timeline, whether it's a package or a 6-week program or whatever. I get it. It's just what I've seen over, and I get it's not great either to be saying per visit. I get it. But the amount of people that have stayed with us for months and months and months and years and years and years and years, because we didn't have an end time. I know, and everyone, whether it's Jordan and Ben Boggy or it's Robbie and Joey and everyone else, they make great rebuttals as to why it's important to have a goal, like a time, hey, you reach this goal, you finish this program, this 4-week program, 6-week program, this package, whatever. Now let's resell you on another package. That causes a little friction because you're needing to resell the next thing. When we just have a fluid, hey, we're here for you, as your lifestyle physical therapist, we're here for you as your indefinite lifestyle healthcare provider if you want us. And it allows me to have one therapist stay with that person indefinitely. It also allows me, when one therapist leaves, they move away, they get fired, whatever things happen, I can plug in other therapists to see them, including right now when I'm having a new therapist cover one of my existing therapists who's going to be going away. It allows a seamless transition, where last week I got a text from one of my clients that said, Dr. Mo is great too. Thank you so much for finding all these great physical therapists to work with me. Right. That's maybe it's different because I'm trying to lead the show that way. But then there's also the positives, like you're saying, about selling a program, selling the outcome, selling a little bit more of a timeline instead of the a la carte. So anyway, there's pros and cons each way.
Well, I think context is important. So I can see what I'm describing being more the new patient coming into the ecosystem. But then once you complete that initial 6-week episode, then you transition to a continuity that really never ends. And this is where you go back to, I always try to find comparisons in other businesses, other industries. I spent a large part of my life in a martial arts academy. You went through the ranks, right? You had white belt, yellow belt, blue belt, and you go up. But then once you hit kind of a certain level, the time for each belt gets longer, and you're never really thinking like there's an end to this. You realize that this is just in perpetuity. It just keeps going. The learning never ends. So I think you've got the new patient who doesn't know you coming into the ecosystem. You start with this easy exit, and it goes back to the beginning of the episode where we talked about hiring a new therapist. I want an easy way for them to quit. I want an easy way for them to be fired. I want the easiest exit possible, because it's such an uncomfortable experience to have somebody think they're doing amazing, crushing it, like blowing you away. And you as the owner is like, you suck. I'm sorry. This is terrible. This is not what I want representing my company.
But what if they're locked into that 6-week program though? Then what? What if you get 3 weeks in, you get 2 weeks in, you're like, oh man, I gotta respectfully deal with this person for another 3, 4, whatever weeks?
So then you make it a 2-week, you make it a 5-week, you make it whatever you want. Like, yourself. I know I could live in the worst possible conditions for 6 weeks and get through it. Now on the consumer side, if we're talking consumer, like, they can quit, they can fire you, they can do whatever. There's always an exit for them too, just like an employee. But for me, we've got patients that I am struggling every day to come in, and I put on the professional face and I put out the professional personality. And it's part of being a professional. Like, this is your job. Suck it up. Go do it. But I also know that I've got a discharge coming down the road. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Conversely, we also have patients out there right now that have been with me for a decade. They've been with me for 15 years. Like, I love them. They come in, they're part of the family. Context has to color your decision. And again, at the end of the day, none of us are doing this to take home $10-20 million a year. We're doing this because it's a balance between, I'm earning a good income and I love what I do. I want to keep loving what I do, and I want to keep earning a good income. I don't want to sacrifice either one of those. Let's wrap it up. We're at the 60-minute mark. What is your parting shot?
Parting shot, these handwritten holiday cards, which can transition to handwritten non-holiday cards. So thanking new evaluations, new patients for putting themselves out there, for even contacting you up front for them booking the evaluation or completing the evaluation, or a couple of visits in, and it helps to reinforce the decision to work with you. I think the handwritten cards are so overlooked, because we're so digital now. We're so social media and video and text and email and all those things work. But if you can, at least now, until it's the younger generation, like when Tony's kids and my kid are older, and maybe they will get irritated by snail mail like this. But until that happens, snail mail still works. It stands out. And any of these envelopes, by the way, that are like this size, like I forget, what is it, like 4x6 or whatever, like, everyone knows that it's unique. meaning they think it's a holiday card, a birthday card, a wedding invite, whatever. It's not a long legal envelope. So everyone will drop whatever they're doing and have full focus on opening it. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's your clinic, your business card, your smiles of your team members, whatever it is. It's just so overlooked. It's goodwill. It helps with reactivations. It helps with, like, even if they're good, like, they can refer friends or family. It reminds the patients that you exist and that you help them, and that they can refer you word of mouth. If they're 100%, they don't need you, they can refer other people, or they end up contacting you a little bit later. And then you're like, oh, there was literally nothing else that we did other than we sent them this holiday card, 6 months ago, and we've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. We haven't heard from them. Now all of a sudden they reach out. You have to ask them, hey, like, why you reach out to us right now? You need to dig a little bit, because they're going to say, oh, because that holiday card, I saw you had a baby, whatever, congratulations, whatever. And boom, you just got back on their radar. So Tony, what do you got? Parting shots.
Guys, it's the holiday seasons. Whatever holiday you celebrate, for me, it's Christmas. If you want to give a little recognition, a little present, a little lift to any of us, go find our channels, Dave Kittle Show on YouTube, PT Pintcast, Learn Medicare Billing. Subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed. Go find another content creator that you're not subscribed to. Give them a lift, subscribe, follow their content. That's the best thing you can do. We are definitely here this Thursday at 8:30. We're probably not going to be working next Tuesday. So I will see you, Dave. As always, thanks for joining.
Thank you.